Welcome back, boxing fans, to another live with Sean on boxing. Obviously, this weekend we got some good fights happening. We just had Adrian Broner get beat and basically dominated by Blair Cobb. In my prediction league, I picked Broner to win just because Broner has always been a better fighter. In this case, Broner is what he is, right? A guy that didn't take his career serious enough and got beat by somebody that he definitely should not have been beaten by. But it's a money grab, and we always knew that. So it's nothing more than we anticipated. We also, of course, had the heavyweight man come through easy, Michael Hunter, beating the crap out of Cassius Chaney, beating him from pillar to post easily, not having much of a fight. But we still have some big fight cards tomorrow from DAZN and ESPN to pay attention to. So we will be paying attention to those. What's up, Stringer? Darkness, welcome to the live. He been washed up for a long time. Yes, Broner has. But because Cobb's so shit, I still felt like James Toney was able to still be competitive and still get wins even when he was fat, out of shape, and obviously not at his best. I felt Broner would be able to do that with Cobb. The fact that he got dropped and everything else, it just really shows you how declined he is. But today we're, of course, talking about Tank Davis. And Tank Davis, of course, is fighting next weekend against Frank Martin. Frank Martin, a solid opponent. No one is hating Frank Martin as an opponent. No one's hating Tank Davis for fighting Frank Martin. But let's just put things into context. A lot of channels have been acting like Tank Davis is the face of boxing. A lot of channels have talked about how Tank Davis is a pay-per-view star. A lot of channels try to downplay the way that Leo Santa Cruz was used because of his Mexican fan base to help elevate Tank Davis to pay-per-view status by using him for his first pay-per-view fight. People tried to diminish Ryan Garcia's involvement with that whole Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight and tried to downplay how important he was to that pay-per-view being so successful. No one's saying those guys sold it, but they were a strong part of it. If you want to be successful in pay-per-view, you need to have an opponent, or you need to have something that's going to generate a buzz, right? Unfortunately, regardless of you and me as boxing fans, knowing that Frank Martin is probably one of the best opponents that Tank Davis has been in with, the reality is he's an unknown fighter with no fan base, who's almost 30 years old, hasn't done anything in his career, and at this point, the only thing he has going for him is his relationship with Errol Spence and the fact that he is a top 10 lightweight. And it's great that Tank Davis is fighting a top 10 lightweight. That's what we hope he does, as opposed to pulling dudes up in weight from 130 pounds or pulling dudes down from 140 and draining them and putting rehydration clauses on them. And there may be a rehydration clause in this fight. We will have to wait and see exactly what gets reported about that. But the thing is, it's funny because I remember when people used to go in Canelo Alvarez with the Canelo weight, and we're very critical of him using rehydration clauses and catch weights and use that as a way to diminish, downplay, and criticize and shit all over him, right? Now they don't use that. Now they use different things, that he's ducking David Benavidez. But it's ironic that when you talk about a guy like Tank Davis, the same people that perpetuated these stories previously now come to the defense of Tank Davis. And you cannot talk boxing without people defending Tank Davis, literally not doing what boxing fans want and literally looking like he's running in the opposite direction, right? That's just what people see. The other irony in this situation, because I know me and other people get blamed as anti-black channels, but this has nothing to do with anti-black or non-black channels. Most of the hate that comes towards Tank Davis is literally coming from other black American YouTubers, right? The same way we saw Errol Spence fans crap all over Bud Crawford's resume. diminish it, yet still put him pound for pound number one, even though they shit on his resume, said he hasn't fought anyone, hasn't done anything, but he's still pound for pound number one. The reason, of course, they were putting him in pound for pound number one is because they wanted a black fighter in that position, even though in their own videos, diminishing and downplaying and criticizing Crawford, all to fanboy and build up and elevate Errol Spence, right? They were still Spence fanboys. And then, of course, you had Crawford fans coming to the defense of Crawford, as they should, because a lot of the hate that was thrown to him was unnecessary, pointless, right? Errol Spence, to be a star, had to beat Bud Crawford. Prior to that, we knew what was happening with him. He was being protected by the PBC, just like Bud Crawford had been blackballed and ducked from 140 to 147. And even earlier this year, it looked like he was actually going to be ducked again at 154 by the PBC. Luckily, money is making that far harder for the PBC to now do that, because before, he wasn't a draw. He's not pay-per-view. So they could use that as a way to diminish Crawford, downplay him, and sort of push him to the side. But now, of course, with Saudi Arabian money financing him, it's not so easy to do that anymore, right? Even though you've heard people criticize his next opponent, Madrimov, yet people that are criticizing his opponent are actually fanboying for Spence facing Funduro, right? I mean, this is the constant back and forth. And that's why I said, I think between many of these channels, they actually have a rapport. They know, oh, well, we're supporting Bud Crawford and we're supporting Errol Spence. And we will continuously go back and forth amongst each other to get subscribers to follow us and see the drama between the two of us. And we'll literally make video after video after video only talking about this topic consistently, right? And now, of course, that's moved towards, of course, Tank Davis and Devin Haney. But now that Devin Haney got beat by Ryan Garcia, a little bit of that Devin Haney fanboyism coming from the LDBC side obviously had to be curbed, because even though Tank Davis didn't beat Devin Haney, the fact that the guy Tank Davis destroyed comprehensively, the fact that he actually bludgeoned Devin Haney from pillar to post, right? It's not a good look. Even if steroids and everything else were involved, that's true. It is what it is. That's fine. But the reality is, it's still a bad look. It's still hard to shit on and criticize Tank Davis, to fanboy for Devin Haney based on a common opponent, right? And the obvious difference in what we saw with our own eyes. Blatantly different. One guy destroyed Ryan Garcia, the other guy blatantly destroyed by Ryan Garcia. And you can say unfair this and unfair that, but as far as casual boxing fans, they're not looking at that. They just see the same name and then they see the result, and that's really what sort of impacts their thought and how they perceive everything they see. So now, of course, you know, Tank Davis, it was the same. These people that supported Errol Spence supported Tank Davis primarily. And these people that supported Bud Crawford supported Devin Haney. Not consistently, but you still have this back and forth now between these American YouTube black channels and you know, one picking this side, one picking that side to do what? Create controversy and focusing primarily on this topic. Now people are using this as a way to discredit and hate on Shakur Stevenson, because Frank Martin is fighting Tank Davis. Yeah, Frank Martin, that blatantly ducked Shakur Stevenson, is now fighting Tank Davis and got paid, what, another $200,000 on top of that? So 8 months after you could have made $1 million, now you're making 1.2. Oh, congratulations. I mean, that was a fucking windfall, but people will defend it. People find reasons to somehow fanboy everything Tank Davis does, yet find ways to criticize Shakur Stevenson, criticize Devin Haney, criticize Bud Crawford, to fanboy Errol Spence. But then people want to point fingers at me or you or other people as if we have anything to do with any of this narrative. We don't. The things we ask people to do is the same thing we ask everyone to do. I want to see Tank Davis fight the best fighters in and around his weight class. The same way I want to see Shakur do that. The same way I wanted to see Devin Haney do that. The same way I wanted to see Lomachenko do that. The same way I wanted to see Bud Crawford do that. The same way I want to see Canelo do that. The same way, literally, I want to see every single top fighter do that. That's it. And now with Saudi Arabian money, the zone picking up, and all the brilliant things that are happening in boxing, more or less, that's exactly what's happening. So, instead of celebrating all of this great stuff, you still have these channels that are focused on this back and forth drama. But what does Darkness say? When I watched him throw like 5 punches against Pac in that whole fight, I knew he was done forever. He should have retired after that. Broner. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that was a big money draw. And after that, his career went exactly where we thought it was going to go. Nowhere, right? He was one of these Tank Davis hyped up type of fighters by Floyd Mayweather and the PBC, right? Remember, it wasn't that long ago when people were saying that literally Adrian Broner was the new Floyd Mayweather. Just like people said Tank Davis is the new Floyd Mayweather. Just like people said Devin Haney is the new Floyd Mayweather. Just like people said Shakur Stevenson is the new Floyd Mayweather. People throw that around way too liberally, especially when fighters haven't actually proven themselves. And at the end of the day, the only time you're going to be compared to Floyd Mayweather is when you literally go out there and prove yourself as an all-time great and a future Hall of Famer. If you haven't done that yet, then it's probably too premature to be labeling people like that. We saw that recently in the NBA when people were saying that Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan, right? Based on his team beating Denver Nuggets. And he's a great player. And I hyped him up at the beginning of the year, telling you and everybody else that he is the best young player in the NBA and was going to have a breakout year this year. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. But to label him right now the new Michael Jordan, it's like, calm fucking down. Relax, people. It's a little premature to be putting that pressure on a young guy like him, just like it's premature to say that about Kermel Moton, which now they're saying is the next Floyd Mayweather. Just like it was too premature to do with any of these fighters. Devin Haney was just exposed. And you can say, oh, Ryan cheated and this and that. But the reality is it doesn't matter. What people see is what people see. Even if you want to come out later and say it's a no contest and Devin Haney's undefeated and that loss doesn't count, and then he continues to move on with his career, people still have this, impression tattooed on their brain. So whenever they see Devin Haney in there, this is what they see. Now they're wondering, the next time he gets hit by a left hook, what's going to happen to him? How's he going to take it, right? Is he going to take it? Or is he going to fold like he did against Ryan Garcia, right? So this is constantly going to be something he's got to deal with moving forward. For Ryan Garcia, he is what he is. Nobody ever thought he was the next Floyd Mayweather. No one was ever calling him the next Floyd Mayweather. Nobody was ever calling him the face of boxing or a pound-for-pound king, right? Even after beating Devin Haney, I mean, people were talking about him being one of the top fighters in boxing pay-per-view wise, but nobody was labeling him the face of boxing above Canelo Alvarez, not like some people wanted to do with Tank Davis previously. Everyone is the next Jordan. I remember when Penny Hardaway was the next Jordan. Well, Penny Hardaway, he was not the next Jordan, but fucking he was definitely maybe the next Magic Johnson. Unfortunately for him, as fast as he elevated into the stratosphere, he fell out of it, right? Unfortunately for him, because he was a great player, and what a team that was. But unfortunately, injuries, longevity. I mean, it's very seldom in any sport that people have careers like LeBron James, so long at such a high level and pretty much injury-free. Look at Grant Hill as another example, right? Grant Hill was meteoric until, of course, injuries ruined his career. People were thinking about McGrady and Grant Hill in Orlando. What a fucking team that's going to be. Even though McGrady walked away from Toronto and Vince Carter, to go to Grant Hill and him in Orlando? What was the difference and what was the point? He could have stayed in Toronto with his cousin and it would have been the same kind of dynamic, right? And who knows how things would have worked out, right? It's unfortunate, but hindsight is 2020. Also amazing is in the house. What's up, my man? Penny was a great player, but I remember having magazines that said he was the next Jordan. Well, they said everyone was the next Jordan. Harold Miner, right, who was a very athletic, good player, but a little short, a little undersized, and didn't have the same kind of impact, obviously, that Jordan had in college. Jordan won a national championship, his first year on the team. And then what's the guy from New York? Philippe Lopez. What was his name? He was like New York Player of the Year, 6'6", athletic wing, and he was being compared to Jordan as well, obviously on the cover of Sports Illustrated and whatnot. Most of these players in the 90s didn't take PEDs their whole careers. LeBron is not even a good player. Well, LeBron is a great player. But yes, he is the modern day Karl Malone, right? And the same reason Karl Malone was able to have such a long career and score so many points and be so high on the list, even though nobody would ever call Karl Malone one of the top 10 best players in NBA history. But he is top 3 in points scored of all time. LeBron was the same. But when you compare LeBron to Malone, way better fucking player, more athletic, physically the same size, but way more athletic, more range on his jump shot, a way better passer. That ain't even comparable. If Malone's passing was better, maybe his team would have won a title. Defensively, leap years above Karl Malone, who was a very one-dimensional sort of type of player. But similar, right, in that both of them, I think, were juicing hardcore throughout their careers. According to the LDBC and the new media, was that it's weird how Wilder, Broner, and Spence can come from such bad career endings, performances even more than once, but somehow Lomachenko is the one that has lost a step and is going downhill. Well, the reality is their hate towards Lomachenko shows their respect for him because they hold him to a whole different level of criticism than they do towards guys like Spence, Wilder, Broner, Haney, and anybody else, right? Because Lomachenko, just like Inoue right now, these dudes are held to such an extreme level of scrutiny, kind of like Canelo Alvarez. Like this video today, it's not to shit on Tank Davis. It's to point fingers at these channels and these fanboys and the mentality that they bring to boxing, right? Tank Davis is one of the best fighters in boxing, one of the most exciting, obviously a guy who potentially could be the face of the sport, right? And the problem with him is to do this, he has to do what every other great fighter has been asked to do. And if he doesn't, then there's going to be some serious questions fucking pointed towards him, just like there would be towards anyone, right? People want to talk about him being the face of boxing over Canelo Alvarez, talk about him being the pay-per-view star over Canelo Alvarez. That ain't true, but that's okay, right? Yet Canelo Alvarez gets heavily scrutinized constantly for who he's not fighting. Tank Davis is defended and literally given a pass by the majority of people in blatantly avoiding and ducking most of the players that you and I wanted him to fight his whole career. And it's okay. It's okay for him to do that. People will literally go out of their way to defend him, to justify him not fighting somebody. But yet a guy like Canelo Alvarez not fighting David Benavidez, right? A guy who isn't more accomplished than fucking Devin Haney, isn't more accomplished than Shakur Stevenson, isn't more accomplished than fucking Lomachenko, isn't more accomplished than Teofimo Lopez. Here's 4 fighters that we want Tank Davis to fight, all way more accomplished than fucking David Benavidez. David Benavidez is a one-weight champion who lost his title twice because of his own immaturity and unprofessionalism. A guy who's been a weight bully at 168 pounds for years. When guys were defending Caleb Plant and saying he was the best fighter at 168, LDBC channels, They were criticizing Benavidez as a weight bully back then. Now that Canelo Alvarez is held to scrutiny for not fighting him, the whole weight bully conversation falls off. No one ever brings that up now because they don't care. The level of scrutiny they hold for certain fighters compared to others is how they expose themselves, right? Blatantly. Darkness says LeBron isn't a good defender either, though. Laugh out loud. He's a great weak side defender, right? Using his athleticism to cover range and support on the backside. But as far as, face-to-face defender, shutting guys down, he doesn't have the quickest lateral movement because obviously he's a big motherfucker. What's up, Evis? Tank cherry picking champion. He is a cherry picker. And this is because of his promotional company, whether that's Floyd Mayweather or Al Heyman and the PBC, right? Like when they were literally trying to get him to fight Devin Haney in Saudi Arabia for career high money, people were finding ways to defend him. Oh no, Tank Davis don't need to go to Saudi Arabia to fight Devin Haney. He's the A-side. What? What are you talking about? Who fucking cares? He ain't gonna be losing out going to Saudi Arabia. He's going to get paid more than he ever got paid and get worldwide access at the same time, just like AJ did, Fury and Usyk and many others have. It didn't hurt their careers. Nobody's been going, you guys are already fucking pay-per-view stars. You don't need to do this. What are you talking about? It's like looking at fucking my man, football player, soccer player, not Messi, but the Portuguese guy, Ronaldo, right? Ronaldo is a superstar, a legend, one of the top 5 footballers in the history of the game. He did not need to go to Saudi Arabia to build up his name. He already is a star. Star in England, star in Spain, star in fucking Italy, could have went to fucking Germany to end his career, been a star in Germany. Didn't need to go to Saudi Arabia. But why wouldn't he? Right? It's not that he needed them, but it didn't fucking hurt him. Financially, it was a great maneuver and just continued to extend his career. That's all people were asking Tank Davis to do. not throw his career away, not take B-side money to fight Devin Haney in Saudi Arabia, but people find a way to try to rescue him, right? Smash the likes. Tank's fans are delusional. And just as many as you have Tank's fans that are delusional, you have the Devin Haney anti-Tank fans that are like the epitome of Spence and Crawford fans who are also fucking delusional, right? Guys that act like Devin Haney was way better leaps fucking and bounds than Tank Davis, even though arguably he just lost to Lomachenko, right? I think stylistically, sure, Devin Haney had some tools that may have gave Tank Davis problems, but you never know who's going to win a fight till they actually fight, and that's all we want. That's all we've been asking for. Now that people want him to fight Shakur Stevenson, it's not some way to discredit, hate on, shit on Tank Davis and somehow try to diminish him. It's the opposite. Completely the opposite. But then people say, oh, Frank Martin. Who the fuck is Frank Martin? Frank Martin's never beaten a top 10 lightweight. Frank Martin's never been a world champion. Frank Martin is almost 30 years old. Sure, you and I, hardcore boxing fans, watch him and see the potential and think it's fast, powerful, looks good, right? Obviously didn't look great against the German guy in his last fight, but prior to that, looked really good. He would be potentially a great opponent for Tank Davis. But to try to act like he's a better opponent than Lomachenko, than Haney, than Lopez, than Shakur, now that's what makes you delusional. Because you're trying to fucking defend him by ducking certain fighters. Here, let's just pop this up right now, just so we can see. Like, you see these kind of fanboy channels constantly try to defend him. Knockout Boxing is the worst. Literally, the same way he makes video after video after video after video, day after day after day after day, defending Errol Spence and shitting on Bud Crawford. Now that's what he's doing with regards to Tank Davis. It was shitting on Devin Haney, but now, of course, Devin Haney just lost. So now it's shitting on Shakur Stevenson, acting as if, Shakur should feel, some way because Frank Martin is fighting Tank Davis. Well, Frank Martin was never Shakur's fucking target. Tank Davis was. And the fact that he's fighting Frank Martin's opponent, a guy that people feel arguably beat Frank Martin, is mostly to make a statement. The same way certain people fight guys people struggled with to try to go in there and dominate them in such a way to get buzz, right? When you saw Anthony Joshua fight fucking Otto Wallin, you didn't see a lot of people going, oh, he's fighting fucking Tyson Fury's leftover. He's fighting a leftover. He's not big. He's not an A-side. He's not a draw. Because they couldn't say that, because they would be full of shit. And in truth, they knew why he's fighting Otto Wallin, because Otto Wallin gave Tyson Fury a tough fight, and he struggled with him. AJ wanted to make a statement, to go in there and fucking destroy him, so that people would then now look at this mutual opponent they've been in with and now compare how they each fought him. We also saw him do that with Ngannou. Not only is it a money grab, but we saw Fury literally struggle with Ngannou. AJ went in there and fucking blitzed him, right? All of this, these two wins, even if you want to say they are insignificant on the large scale, on the short scale, what they did is they elevate the fight between AJ and Fury and make it that much more interesting and make it that much more exciting for casual fans. And this is the same thing with Shakur going to fight this German dude. He goes in there and knocks that fucking guy out, especially Shakur, who doesn't knock people out. That's going to be a huge statement. And then if Tank Davis goes in and beats Frank Martin, people are going to see the way Shakur handled that German dude and the way Tank Davis handled Frank Martin. And they're going to be like, man, Shakur's way fucking better opponent than fucking this dude, man. Come on. And it's also a unification fight. So let's also keep that in perspective. But where are we? He doesn't move at all, though. How many times have you seen him just stand there and watch people walk past him on their way to the layup or kick his foot out to move, pretend to do something? Oh, LeBron, yeah. Usyk has been fighting everywhere and never gives excuses. And that's the thing, right? You got this new age of American boxing or boxer. And the boxers are almost as delusional as the fans, right? They will talk nonsense completely on social media, talk out their ass like crazy. But yet then you have non-Americans who just do what they have to do. And these guys get sort of scrutinized and criticized because they don't talk loads of shit constantly. Lomachenko, Usyk, fucking Bivol, Better BF, any of these dudes, right? They're not constantly on social media flapping their fucking gums. Even in their own language to their own countrymen, they're not doing that because it's a whole different mentality. They're far more professional. They're far more focused on actually proving themselves in the ring against the best opponents. Other people, it becomes so much more of a show, right? More than fucking reality. More of a WWE type of fucking thing, right? I'm going to jump on the ropes and fucking scream at you when you're sitting in the first row. But the reality is that I'm going to go fight 5 bums and not fight you and continue to have people beg and push and hope and pray that eventually we're going to face each other. And that's what they do. And historically, we understand why they did that, because they were hoping to generate enough buzz that financially it'd be a big enough fight that whether you won or lost, it'd be worth the risk. But now there's money on the table, big money on the table. You don't need to do this shit like you did before. So there's no excuse for it anymore. Really, there's not. But, some people. Where are we? Paquito says, what do you think about the LDBC comparing Wilder getting KO'd with Pacquiao getting KO'd and continuing fighting? Pacquiao getting KO'd by who? Juan Manuel Marquez? Pacquiao got KO'd by Juan Manuel Marquez in a fight where he looked his most dominant. Like, if you remember that fight, Pacquiao was beating the crap out of Marquez, had broken his nose. Marquez's face was bleeding all over, and it looked like it was only a matter of time before Pacquiao stopped Marquez to make the ultimate statement. But then we saw what happened. The last 10 seconds, instead of stepping back and then just coming out clean in the next round and finishing the job, he went in being overly aggressive, which Pacquiao tended to do at that point of his career. Marquez stepped on his foot. Pacquiao lost balance and fucking got clocked with the perfect fucking counter right hand, knocked him fucking unconscious. But everybody knew that was a one-shot fucking type of lucky punch. It had nothing to do with diminished skills, because literally that whole fight, he was killing Marquez, looking way better than he ever did. Right? And when has he been stopped since then? Right? He went on to win a world title. You're trying to fucking justify Wilder, who just fucking got embarrassed by Joseph Parker. Didn't throw a punch, looked like garbage, had no legs. So that's why we all predicted that Zhang was going to knock him out, because we already knew he was shot. We already knew he had no legs. It was fucking obvious. Now you want Wilder to keep fighting? It's fine. If you're such a Wilder fanboy, you want him to continue fighting and getting knocked the fuck out and just diminishing his career by losing to lower level dudes, because he's not going to get a fight with a top 10 fighter next. He's going to get a fight with who? Maybe a guy like Big Baby Anderson, right? A prospect on the up and come, or a guy even below that. It's stupid. Why would you do that? Wilder made tons of cash. He should retire. He's got nothing to prove. He had a solid career, but obviously the delusion and the bullshit about him being this incredible once-in-a-lifetime type of heavyweight has been exposed by Fury multiple times. Tio talks a lot, but at least his resume is better. Well, his two best wins are fucking way better than fucking almost everybody in boxing, right? Arguably, 2 undisputed unification fights against Lomachenko, and then obviously against Taylor. Great wins. Sean always dropping the facts. That's me. Newton, what's up, Iceman? They jealous of the Inui. Well, the whole Inui situation is ridiculous. Inui's just living his best life, doing what he should do. He's the epitome of these other non-American fighters that I just talked about. And don't take this as me hating on Americans. The whole reason that HBO stopped working with Americans and many of these promotional companies stopped working with Americans is because of this attitude that Americans have, this arrogance, this entitlement, right? They think they deserve something, even though they haven't put in the work and actually accomplished fucking anything. So, of course, as a promoter, you understand the more marketable fighters, but at the same time, you also have way more aggravation, cost way more money, too much drama, or you could work with these non-Americans who are going to do what you say for a lower price, make great fights, fucking be way more professional. And so who are you going to base your promotional team on? Like, history shows you that's why all these promoters did exactly what they do, right? Sure, you want to jump on that once-in-a-lifetime superstar fighter that could become a pay-per-view star, but at what cost, right? Because we see also when you get to a certain stage in your career, you're probably going to leave your promoter anyway, because you're going to get greedy and want more of the money. So you're going to end up leaving, like Pacquiao did, like De La Hoya did, like Cotto did, like Floyd did, like Canelo did, right? That's just inevitable. The Tank card has a lot of names on the undercard. Yeah, the Tank card ain't bad, but let's be real. Which of the fights on that undercard do you think are legitimate 50-50 fights? Legitimate. Like, let's just take a quick peek. Like, I think it's a good card, but it's funny, people are trying to hype up this PBC card, acting as if this is the best fight card of the year. Tank Davis fighting Frank Martin is far from the best fucking fight of the year. And as far as David Benavidez fighting Gvozdyk, I'm sure I will be fucking redeemed when fucking Benavidez gets rid of Gvozdyk inside 6 rounds, right? Because this Gvozdyk is not the same version that people are trying to hype him up to be. But, you know, people literally will fucking say anything. That's what you find about YouTube and content creators. People will literally say fucking anything because they're not held accountable for anything they say. They literally can say whatever they want, and nobody is going to say anything to them. Where is it? Come on, my man. Frank Martin. There we go. BoxRec doesn't even have Tank Davis ranked. Is it because he's been inactive? Because they always like to take people off the list that have been inactive, but he was in jail, and now he's got a fight scheduled. So I don't know how you would list him as inactive, but okay. So we look at this card, and we just go from the bottom to the top. I'm not going to list everybody, but you know, first big names that pop up. Justin Valorier is on the card, you know, good young kid. Elijah Garcia is on it. Elijah fighting Kyron Davis. It's a good fight, right? I think Elijah Garcia is probably the best prospect the PBC has. Middleweight fighter, really good, young kid. Fighting Kyron Davis, good fighter. But, you know, this is just one of those stay busy fights against a tough, seasoned veteran to give you some tough rounds and hopefully season you for when you step up and take on top-level competition. Romain Villa, he was exposed. A guy that nobody had ever heard of, was given a robbery decision and then got destroyed by Boots Ennis and is fighting some dude I had never heard of. Mark Magsaye against Eduardo Ramirez. Good fight. That's probably the best 50-50 fight on the whole card, right? And that's number 5. So probably going to be on the pay-per-view section. And that in itself is not a bad fight. You have 2 solid fighters, both not really world-class. Magsaye, 25-2, 2 losses. Obviously, he'd lost back-to-back to Ray Vargas and Figueroa. Not easy fights, both 2 long fighters, able to control the distance very well. Now he's moving up, facing Eduardo Ramirez, 38-3-3. 3 losses, 3 draws, knocked out once. You know, he's coming off of a loss to Cruz, got demolished in 2 fucking rounds, right? Lost to Claudio Marrero, right? Claudio Marrero was a good fighter years and years ago, but beat Bartholomew's brother, beat Mariaga, beat Luis Melendez, good opponents. Lost to Lee Selby, right? So stylistically, it's a great matchup because Magsaye is not a slick boxer, so he's not going to give him any problems like these other fighters did. So it's probably just going to be a war. And the good thing you can say about Magsaye, out of the 2 of them, he's the harder puncher. So free with a VPN. How much is Tank pay-per-view in the US? I don't know, $80, $85. Pound for Pound King, what's up? Hard Recoil, welcome back. Hungry Young Lions. Jay Will says, Gary Antoine Russell, about time he fighting, about time. Fentanyl Floyd, 100%. That Tank card has a lot of names, so let's keep going up. Carlos Adames versus Terrell Guasha. Again, a good fight, but this is the kind of opponent that Adames should beat. Adames has looked really good at middleweight. Guasha is not a middleweight. He's a 154-pound fighter who's an in-house PBC fighter. So he's being used by the PBC as an opponent, moving up to a weight division that he doesn't fight out of. He's good, but you can just assume he's not going to be as good at 160 because physically he's not going to be as big, as strong. His power has never been great, and he might not be as resilient For Carlos Adames, he's going to be the natural bigger fighter, the faster fighter, the harder puncher. But, we got to give Guasha credit as the better boxer, the more skilled fighter. But you would expect that Carlos Adames will beat him, probably pretty convincingly. If he doesn't knock him out, that will probably be a reason to criticize him. Then you got Antoine Russell versus Alberto Puello, two undefeated fighters, a fight that should have happened a year ago when Puello was the WBA super champion. Puello caught using PEDs. It's surprisingly, nobody ever talks about the fact that he got caught using PEDs. Look at him. We don't need to talk about him using PEDs. Okay. And now that he's fighting Gary Russell, nobody's really even bringing up the whole PED situation. For Gary Antoine Russell, good fighter, a guy with a 100% KO ratio. People were really hyping him up. Obviously, he was coming off of good wins against Bartholomew and Postol. Beat a good opponent, but nobody at the same level. And Kent Cruz in his last fight stopped him in one round. That tells you everything you need to know. And now Puello. Puello is long, lanky, awkward, but he's the kind of fighter that the dude should beat, right? If you look at the best opponents Puello's fought, who did Puello fight in his career to make a name for himself? When he won his title, people were asking, how did he even get a world title fight? He fought Akhmedov, who was 9-1, and I think that was the fight he got the title in, and literally went 12 rounds with him, and then defended it, or just recently bounced back because, of course, he had the PED situation against a guy who was 11-0. Prior to that, who did he fight that was good? Vishon Owens, 13-2. Jesus Rubio, 13-3-1. Like, he fought fucking nobody. Nobody. So if Gary Antoine Russell can't dominate him and continue his unbeaten KO rate of 100%, he will be criticized for it because he is supposed to win, right? That's why they led him towards that fight for a world title. So he could have won a world title under the PBC, and they could have had 340-pound PBC champions. But he walked away from that title, literally. So that should be easy work for him as well. So still the best fight on this card, as far as I can see, is Magsaia against Ramirez. And then you got Benavidez, Gvozdyk. I think it's a one-sided ass beating. And then Frank Martin against Tank Davis. Like I say, I think Martin's a good fighter. He's impressive. He shows a lot of good things about him. But who's he fucking fought? He hasn't fought a top-level fighter in his career. This is by and far the biggest step up of his career against the most dangerous fucking puncher in the division. This fight wouldn't be getting done if they really felt that fucking concerned about Tank Davis losing. My man, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Americans just can't accept someone can be better. Evis Mencia, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it, buddy. Allow Smazzing says smash the likes. I says $74.99. Oh, so they actually dropped the pay-per-view to $75. Not quite the $85 many of them have been previously. Is there only 3 fights on the undercard? I guess it depends on what they do, right? Because we saw some of these Saudi Arabian undercards where there's been like fucking 73 fights under it. Like I said, you can go all the way down to number 6, Romain Villa, and then number 7, Elijah Garcia, right? So you could very well have him on that card as well. You have Justin Villoria. You might remember Justin Villoria's dad, who was a world champion, right? Who fought Roman Gonzalez back in the day. He's a kid that's getting a lot of hype, 5-0, 3 knockouts. So, there's people you could put on it, but I would expect that probably Villoria, Romain, Garcia are probably going to be on the free YouTube version. And then from that, you're probably going to get the Magsaia fights, the top 5 fights going to be on the pay-per-view section. I would expect, but you never know. So here's some channels that go to their way to literally hate on Tank Davis. As I said, you have just as many channels, Black American YouTube channels primarily, who had the whole Bud Crawford, Errol Spence situation, now anti-Tank Davis, right? A lot of these guys are anti-Tank Davis, try to discriminate against him by criticizing him, by fanboying fighters like Devin Haney, acting as if Tank Davis is not the A-side in that fight, and that he's not the money man, and that Devin Haney is the man. And it was like, really? Who the fuck believes that? Like, sure, I don't think Tank Davis is the face of boxing above Canelo Alvarez. But I also don't think fucking Devin Haney is the face of boxing over Tank Davis, right? Two things can be true. And those things are fucking obvious. This is no narrative or anything else. It's common sense. Everybody knows that. As far as Tank Davis and the credit he gets, obviously he gets credit. He's on Ring Magazine's pound for pound list at number 8, 29-0, 27 KOs, going to probably be 30-0 with 28 KOs after this Frank Martin fight, and probably move up this list above number 7, Errol Spence, who shouldn't even be on this list right now. It should be Lomachenko. But truthfully, a lot of people try to downplay Tank Davis as a pound-for-pound fighter because he doesn't have a lot of the accolades other fighters on the pound-for-pound list have. I give him credit because, while I know he's only a 2-weight world champion in the conventional sense, and the second one, it was basically an email title that he was emailed just recently by the WBA. We do know that he's one of the top fighters in the division, right? We do know he is dangerous. And at 135, he is easily one of the top 3 fighters in that weight class. And if he moved up to 140, you'd have to say he's probably one of the top 3 fighters at 140 as well. And if he moved down to 130, you would say that he's one of the top 3 fighters at 130 pounds as well. But if you want to be really praised as a pound for pound fighter, to get this praise that guys like Inoue are getting, you need to do what Inoue's fucking doing. Unify fucking titles. Fight other world champions, right? This is the same thing we ask every single fighter to fucking do. But people defend Tank Davis and diminish the fact that he hasn't fought any unification fights in his career, meaning that he hasn't fought any of the other champions at any point, at any weight in his career. They try to fanboy him moving up to 140 and fighting for a WBA regular title. Yet they don't say that about Canelo when he did the exact same thing, fighting Rocky Fielding. They shit on him for doing that. But then you're going to defend and fanboy Tank Davis for doing that and act like he's doing something extra special. What's he doing extra fucking special? He could have moved to 140 and fought a legitimate champion. He chose to fight a regular champion. That's like looking at Lomachenko facing Sosa, who was the regular champion in the WBA. We know why he faced Sosa, because Tank Davis ducked him, the WBA regular champion ducked him, and then the other champion ducked him. So literally the only guy that wanted to fight him was the regular champion Sosa, who had to give up his regular title to then challenge Lomachenko. And that's why that fight was made. But that's not the case with Tank Davis. Tank Davis is a money man. Everybody would love to step in the ring with him because it's potentially a career high payday. So when people try to defend him for not fighting people, you're kind of shooting yourself in your foot, because the reality is he's not in a situation where fights can't be made. It's literally the opposite. He's literally in a Canelo Alvarez position where he can literally make fucking any of the fights if he wants to. The point is, he hasn't wanted to, and that's why people are critical of him. Where are we? Pawn Crouton, you got cooked by Trill Will. I don't even know what this guy's talking about. You got cooked by Trill Will. Who the fuck is that? Why ESPN would give more praise to Tank than Teal? Well, Tank's never lost in the embarrassing fashion that Teo lost in, even though that was brought on by Teo himself. Tank also has never looked vulnerable in fights the way Teo has on several occasions when he just underperformed. The only fight you can say Tank Davis underperformed on was the Cruz fight, but we knew he had a broken hand, and he still found a way to win. So that's a good thing, a positive. Even injured, you still were able to find a way to win the fight. That's something to give you compliment and praise for. And then, of course, Cruz has went on to do very well since then. So, it's not a bad look for Tank Davis. But for Lopez, he's had some performances that were just really disappointing and really showed that he was kind of limited and not able to adjust in the ring. I like Lopez, but he's one of his worst critics because of the bullshit he fucking brings to himself, right? All the talk he puts out there, and then you go out there and you underperform, you're going to be criticized. Tank Davis primarily goes out there and knocks fucking dudes out. So you can't really be critical of him when you go out there, you talk shit, and then you knock someone out like Ryan Garcia. All you can say is, nice, good. Let's hope you step up and take on the best now. Anui Spence on pound for pound top 10, just exposing bias. Teo never fought a live dog. Loma was coming off 2 rotator cuff surgeries pre-fight and post-fight, and he fought a washed-up Taylor who should have lost to Cottrell. Yeah, you could say that. That's true, but that's hindsight's 2020, right? Like, if you want to be fair, like you could say that. Obviously, Taylor hasn't looked great, and Lomachenko was injured, but people didn't want to use that as an excuse. They wanted to not give Lomachenko an excuse because they wanted Lomachenko to lose. So they got what they wanted. Sean, will you be live for any fight this weekend? Actually, this weekend I won't. I'm going to go camping tomorrow with my friend and his family and another family who I don't know who they are. Teo, yeah, where are we? Regis was the first guy to beat Josh Taylor. Many would include me. 7-5 Regis, just turn off the commentary. Well, yeah, but see, that doesn't diminish fucking Taylor. That doesn't diminish Taylor. The fact that Taylor was in the World Boxing Super Series tournament and then fighting a unification fight with Regis Prograis is something to praise him for. And then he went on to then fight for undisputed against Ramirez afterwards. So that's why he was praised and on a pound for pound list at that point, right? You could say that that fight was competitive and Regis could have won. That's true. He could have. But then Regis went on after that and did fucking nothing. Never took on another legitimate opponent in his fucking career. Priced himself out of fights, and really what led to him being where he is now. Inactive, fighting low-level opponents, and then getting beat the first time he steps up. Regis was the real undisputed. Well, no, he wasn't, because he fucking didn't fight Ramirez. Why do people never bring that up? Regis beat Taylor. No, that's your opinion. I mean, sure, you're not wrong, but you're also not right. It was a 50-50 fight. It could have went either way. Machado, what's up? If Wilder comes back, would you like him to fight at Bridgerweight versus a Coley or maybe something like Opataya? If Wilder comes back, I don't want to fucking see him fight anyone. The dude should just hang it up and walk away. If he comes back, what's going to happen is more embarrassing losses and more KO losses. And if he goes back at Bridgerweight, he's going to get knocked out by smaller dudes that no one fucking talks about. It ain't going to be a good thing for his career. And he's also not going to get paid as much money as he's been being paid as well now. So what would be the fucking point? Teo beat a washed up Taylor coming off the worst performance. Dude, we get your point, but hindsight is 2020. Nobody was saying that when fucking a mentally fucking fragile Teo coming off of a piss poor performance against Sandor Martin stepped in to face Taylor. People didn't know what to expect from either one of them. The fight could have easily went the other way, but it didn't. Lopez went out there and looked fucking great. Any word on Virgil Ortiz Boots replacement opponent? Virgil Ortiz opponent is going to be the WBC guy that just came off of a big performance, was supposed to fight Funduro. I think it's been confirmed. Let me see. I took a picture of it. Here. It's a great fight. That's the fight we were hoping for. Terms have been agreed for Virgil Ortiz to face Sherry Bolchuk or Sergey Bolchuk next. It's a great fight. If you can't get him versus Tim Tszyu, obviously this isn't going to be the money generating type of fight Tim Tszyu would be, but you put this on Bud Crawford's California card that just obviously announced Big Baby Anderson versus the Congolese fighter that fights out of the UK. Fuck, man. That fight card is way better than this fight card. Let's check that shit out. How good is that card? That card is dynamite. Fucking dynamite. Dynamite. Not only do you get a real legitimate pound for pound fucking king who literally has fought and unified and fought other world champions, unlike Tank Davis, but you get a fucking really great card that looks legitimately 50-50. So he's moving up to his 4th division, Bud Crawford, to face Israel Madrimov. Great fight. I know people downplay Madrimov, but Madrimov's an undefeated champion, something that Frank Martin definitely is not. Then you got David Morrell versus Kalajic. Morrell, right? This is a guy that should be fighting David Benavidez, but Benavidez is allowed to duck him and nobody cares. He's fighting Kalajic. Kalajic is just as solid as an opponent as fucking Benavidez fighting fucking Vostik. Then you got Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela. Great fight. And then Andy Cruz versus Antonio Moran. I mean, obviously Moran is going to be washed by Cruz, but it's good that Cruz is getting another opportunity to showcase himself. Jared Anderson versus Martin Bakole is a great heavyweight fight. Great heavyweight fight. And then Andy Ruiz versus Gerald Big Baby Miller. Another really, really good heavyweight fight. And then Ortiz versus fucking Bolchuk. That card is fucking dynamite. Dynamite. Where are we? Any word? Oh, Sandor Martin got robbed against Lopez. Yes, he did. If Tank fought the same version of Taylor that Teal fought, people would have called it a cherry pick. If Tank fought the same version of Taylor that Teal fought, people would have called it a cherry pick. Tank Davis could have fought Taylor, a unified champion, instead of fucking cherry picking a WBA regular title versus fucking Mario Barros. So don't bring up that load of bullshit. He could have done it before anyone. He could have been the guy to give Taylor his first loss and become a legitimate fucking unified champion. He chose not to go that route. He chose to fight the WBA regular fucking champion who was never undisputed, who's never unified against anybody, who's never won a legitimate world title. So it's easy to fucking say this and say that, but what you're doing is making all your statements based on hindsight. Hindsight's 2020. If my uncle was my fucking aunt, you know, that kind of fucking bullshit narrative. Let's just be fair, which at this point, I don't know if you legitimately can be, but we'll see what you say next. Virgil Ortiz is an opponent, forget his name, but he's like 25-0 with 23 KOs. Well, Ortiz, I think he's got 100% KO ratio. Most boxing media outlets have Regis winning. That ain't true. Now you're full of shit. Come on, dude. Teal came out of COVID against Kambosos if you want to make excuses. All of Teal's best wins were cherry picks, and he lost to CB level fighters. Well, Top Crip, obviously you're not a Teal fan, and that's fine. This video is not even about Teofimo Lopez. It's about Tank Davis. So why are you deflecting? Why are you shitting on Teal, who's not the topic of conversation and isn't on the pound for pound list. This picture shows you that Tank Davis is on the pound for pound list. Tio is not on Ring Magazine's pound for pound list. So why is he in the conversation? You're just really proving my point of this whole video, that people will go to all kinds of fucking, crazy fucking extents to dick ride and fanboy for Tank Davis, to only then criticize and hate on other fighters who literally have done more. And yes, Tio's done more. Tio's unified against champions. He's been a unified champion in 2 different weight classes. Sure, Tank Davis could have done it, but he didn't. And it doesn't look like he's going to. Top Crip, if Tank would have fought the same opponents as Tio did and win, then he would have got credit. Exactly. Black American God, FBA says, Deontay's still a pay-per-view star in America, and that's facts. It's on him if he wants to retire. You're delusional, dude. He's never been a pay-per-view star in America. Outside of cherry-picking a retired fucking Tyson Fury to do his first pay-per-view in the States, one fight which was successful. What other pay-per-view has Wilder done in the States that's been successful? If he comes back to the States and tries to fight on pay-per-view, coming off of a knockout loss to Zhang and a loss to Parker in back-to-back fights, trying to fucking get the amount of money that he will want, which is going to be similar to what he's just been paid in his last 2 losses, nobody's going to pay for that fight. It's going to be the same scenario that you had with fucking Ruiz. That was an in-house PBC fight between 2 former world champions, which was a no-brainer and should have easily been able to be made into a pay-per-view. The Mexican-American versus the Black-American, 2 ex-world champions. The winner of this is going to fucking catapult himself right into world fucking title contention again. But the fight couldn't get done. And you think he's a pay-per-view star? Come on, man. He's such a pay-per-view star. He literally left the PBC to go fucking represent Matchroom on DAZN in Saudi Arabia. Opetaya would fuck up Wilder. Opetaya would fucking knock his ass out faster than fucking Zhang did. So-called experts said Hrgović is overrated, but would never say that about Wilder, the most overhyped heavyweight in history. I don't know how people say Hrgović was overrated when all people were saying is that people didn't want to fight him because it was high risk, low reward. And all we want to see is Hrgović in with legitimate competition. That's all people wanted to see how good he was. This was a guy who wasn't a gold medal Olympian. So we knew he had faults. We knew he could be beat. We saw it in the amateurs. We saw him fight Zhang, and a lot of people felt Zhang won that fight. So how could anyone say Hrgović was fucking overhyped? Going into the Daniel Dubois fight, most people with common sense said that that fight was a great fight because it was a legitimate 50-50 fight. And you could literally see ways both guys could win that fight. The one thing leaning towards Hrgović is the fact that Daniel Dubois had quit on 2 occasions. So people questioned his heart, but he proved that that wasn't an issue in the big baby fight and then once again in this fight. I'm shocked Boots is getting a $3 million payday. They do seem to be overpaying him, but you kind of got to do that when you just signed him to a new contract, right? Okay, cool. Thanks. Facts. No, he wouldn't. They would be calling it cherry picks. Loma wasn't 100%. Oh, never mind. Okay, whatever. The problem is, dude, you're a Tank Davis fanboy. And so you're going to say ridiculous shit to defend him and then be critical of everyone else. You're a Tank fanboy and would do whatever to excuse cherry picking champions. Yeah, see, he agrees with me before I even read his comment. If Tio is overrated, then Tank is trash because of his resume. Tio never fought an undefeated Black American. He beat Loma, who was already known as beatable. Loma was known as beatable because he lost a split decision in his second fight to Salido, who came in overweight kind of like Ryan Garcia, and cheated, kind of like Ryan Garcia, and fouled him fucking constantly the balls and still almost knocked him out? No, dude. He wasn't exposed as beatable. You're fucking delusional. Most people felt that Lomachenko would beat Lopez, and people were willing and ready to say Lopez was too young and inexperienced, and that Lomachenko shouldn't really get praise because he wasn't fighting a legitimate guy with more experience. But he did what he had to do. Tank's resume is argued pretty well, actually. Mario's become a 2 interim champion. Wow, interim champion because of fucking connections with your promotional company. Good job. He did beat Ugis, but Ugis was coming off of literally a fucking destructive loss to Errol Spence, breaking his face. So, well, the resume win is not too bad. It also ain't too good because it's not like Ugis had bounced back with a victory. What Black American has Tank fought? Well, he's fighting Frank Martin now, the first Black American fighter he's ever fought. Outside of Jamal Herring, who as Shakur fought, that was a Black American opponent. Devin only one was Regis. I know, but that's the thing. When people use this Black American stuff, it's only used against non-Black Americans, right? Like Inouye or obviously Manny Pacquiao or people like that, because they want to discredit them and say, well, you can't really be that good because you never really beat a Black American fighter. But yet, if you're a Black American fighter, somehow that's never held to you. You don't need to beat another non-Black American, another Black American fighter. Hector Garcia was a champ. Oh my God, dude. He was cherry picked from 130 pounds. You literally pulled a dude up in weight. And then Ryan Garcia literally has never been a champion, was weight drained with a rehydration clause. And that was pretty obvious when you fucking see him in the ring with Tank and then you see him in the ring with fucking Haney. Mario beat a shot piece of shit in Ugis. Pitbull beat a bum in Rolly. That's a fact. Tank will be ready to fight Loma in 2030. That's a fact. Tank Davis is a Black American. So because he's Black American, he doesn't need to fight a Black American because he beats himself up. Is that what you're saying? Like, I don't understand that logic, but okay. Hughie Fury versus Okolie would be the best heavyweight fight. Oh my God. Come on, dude. You're lying. Nobody wants to see fucking Hughie Fury or fucking Okolie, even though for Okolie, at least he's coming off of a good victory in his last fight. Hughie Fury's been irrelevant for years now. Tank hurt Loma. Y'all don't want that. Tank fucking ducked Lomachenko for years, dude, because you didn't want that and you were okay with it. Tank fanboys don't like real boxing. They are WWE divas. People also forget Pedraza became champ after Tank beat him. Yeah, Pedraza was the best win on Tank Davis' resume. Everybody says that, right? Yet Tank Davis gets tons of credit for beating him. Lomachenko gets no credit for beating him. Okay, explain that to me. Kambosos has a better resume than Tank, and he did that in 2 years. Top Crip, you don't even know the guy Pedraza beat for that belt. Let me ask you, Top Crip, what's Pedraza's best win? Now he may be ducked him for 5 years. I can hear down any fighter with logic. You are using Crip. Can. Pedraza, Barrios, Garcia, Cruz all became champs post-Tank. No. Garcia was a champion. He didn't become a champion post-Tank. Actually, he just got beat post-Tank and is no longer a champion. Cruz became a champ post. Pedraza became a champ post. That's true. But not fucking Hector Garcia, dude. Hector Garcia was a 130-pound champion, got pulled up to be cherry-picked, got knocked out, went down, defended his title, got beat once again, and now is no longer a champion. Tank's been at 135 for 5 years and still hasn't faced a champion. That's the fact. See, that's the thing. Dudes like this, they want to defend Tank Davis and everything he does. Yet Tank Davis has not fought another world champion. Canelo, number 4. This guy can't do anything without being criticized. He can literally fight world champions. If he fights a guy and pulls him up in weight, he gets tons of criticism. You're praising Tank Davis for pulling a guy up in weight. But I'm sure you'd be critical and quick to criticize Canelo Alvarez for pulling up fucking Charlo. Either Charlo. Even though for years and years and years, he was ducking them. Right? Only to fucking be called a ducker when he actually fights them. I think Hrgovic needs better team, full potential. Top 10 lightweight until now, pound for pound king. Yeah, the first top 10 pound for pound fighter or lightweight that he fought that was top 10. I mean, Ryan was, but obviously he moved out of the weight because he couldn't make it anymore. Is Cruz was borderline because nobody knew who he was. He's a replacement opponent for Rolly. Rolly was a top 10, but God only knows how, because arguably he lost to fucking that Dominican fighter prior to that and was gifted a decision. So, he's definitely not fought great opponents. And that's just facts. This is not hating on Tank Davis, but as a 30-year-old guy who people say is the face of boxing and a pound-for-pound fighter, he should be held to the same level of criticism as everybody else on a pound-for-pound list. But he's not. He's literally defended, and you're proving that. So thank you very much, because now when people watch this video, they will literally see you prove my point. Taylor was undisputed. Barrios had a participant belt. That's true. John McSmith, what's up, my man? Tank's resume has a better argument for being better than Loma's because look what his former opponents did. Oh my God, stop, dude. You cannot fucking even try to compare Tank Davis' resume to Lomachenko. Gary Russell is a way more successful world champion than anybody Tank Davis has ever fucking fought. And it ain't even close. Lopez was a unified champion. Devin Haney was undisputed. Kambosos was a unified champion. Petraza was a 2-weight champion when he faced him. Linares was a 2-weight, 3-weight world champion who literally was making his 7th title defense at lightweight and was considered the #1 lightweight by Ring Magazine. Like, dude, Lomachenko literally unified, fighting other champions. Tank Davis is 30 years old and has never been in a unification fight in his career. Like, the way you're willing to fucking defend him is the problem, because you don't hold him to the same scrutiny or criticism that you hold everyone else to. I never had Lomachenko pound for pound. Of course you didn't, Black American. Why would you? He ain't black. Teal gets praised for chasing pound for pound #1 champion with only 15 fights, and I ain't a Teal fan saying this. We all know Black Americans are the cream of the crop when it comes to boxing. So Black American, if Black Americans are the cream of the crop, why are there no Black American fucking champions at heavyweight, cruiserweight, light heavyweight, 168, 160, only at 154, 147, 140, 135, and 130? So literally, so literally you have 5 weight divisions in all of boxing that have a Black American champion. 5. And there's like how many? Fucking 17? 17 weight divisions in boxing, and only 5 of them have a Black American champion. Right? Like, it's nice that you support Black Americans. You're a Black American. You're supposed to like Black American fighters. But why lie, diminish, and discredit every other fucking race and every other fighter in the world to fucking cap? Because that's all you're doing. You're capping. If you want to say that the history of Black American fighters in boxing is deep, rich, and full of great fucking historical fighters, then we would say, yes, That's true. What you're saying is not a lie. But to say that the cream of the crop now, the cream of the crop in the pound for pound top 10 list, Spence you should throw out because he doesn't deserve to be on the pound for pound list. And the fact Ring Magazine has him there still is ridiculous. So then you have who? Bud and Tank. You could maybe put Shakur on that list too. So there's three. So of the top 10 fighters in boxing currently, 3 of them are Black American. Maybe we could find 4. But that's the cream of the crop. Okay. Pacquiao, shoulder was hurt when he fought Floyd. Yeah, we don't need to fucking bring Floyd into this conversation and Pacquiao. I wonder if Martin has any clauses. No, they said there's a rehydration clause. There you go. You couldn't tell on Wilder's undercard. Proud, Black American. Are you John Boxing? If John Boxing is literally parading around with other people's names, that would be pathetic. Pathetic. Smash the likes. Tank fanboys would make whatever excuse if Tank loses. They would be depressed for years. Well, then they would become fucking Glovegate 2.0. Obviously, whoever beats them had to be on PEDs. There'd be some excuse because these guys cannot fucking imagine that a Black American fighter who they dick ride so hard could actually lose a fight. Yet throughout boxing history, everybody has lost fights. Oh, I know, except Andre Ward, Calzaghe, and Floyd Mayweather, and Marciano. So you praise the Chinese guy. Actually, you're stupider than I thought you were. Inui is Japanese for stopping guys, but when Tank does it here, something is wrong. Actually, Black American, I think in this video, I literally just praised Tank Davis for stopping people and talked about why Lopez, somebody was defending Lopez and literally I defended Tank Davis, criticizing the fact that Lopez has been in fights where he lost and underperformed, whereas Tank Davis has pretty much fucking destroyed everybody in front of him. And the only fight that gave him a tough fight was Cruz, and he had a broken hand. So, well, what's your statement say? That I'm going to give Inui praise for knocking guys out, but I'm not going to praise Tank Davis? No. Literally, you're full of shit because I've already praised Tank Davis in this video. As I said, this video is not anti-Tank Davis. It's anti-people like you that are more than happy for him to not do what you want everybody else to do. You want everyone else to fight great fighters, to fight fucking unification fights, to become undisputed, to fight the best guys in the division. But with Tank Davis, you don't want him to do that. That's the issue. That's what this video is about. And you're just showing everybody exactly what I'm saying. So thanks. Tank will fight Loma in 5 years. Sean, if Tank beats Martin, what's the percentage we get a unification fight between Tank and Loma? Actually, I think right now the possibility of Tank fighting Loma in unification is pretty good, right? Probably far more likely than seeing fucking Tank Davis face Shakur Stevenson, right? So I would not be surprised if that fight does get made because Lomachenko is a guy who always wants the best fights. And I don't think he will let the promotional deal get in the way of it because I think he will tell Bob Arum, come on, we've done what we have to do. At this point, this is the biggest fight, so let's do it. So I definitely think that fight is a possibility. And if it does get made, hopefully this year. Tank doesn't fight champs, you nugget. That's McSmith user is here. Tank needs to unify with Shakur or Loma, but he's probably go after Branchek at best. Well, probably. Y'all mad the young brothers are getting paid and not on the field. Black American, again, you're saying stupid shit because what do you mean? We're not trying to stop him from getting paid. Actually, we're trying to put him in position to get paid even more. If he would have fought Devin Haney in Saudi Arabia, he would have got paid way more money than he's going to get paid to fight Frank Martin because that fight card is not going to do 500,000 pay-per-view buys, which means his upside is limited. He could have been guaranteed way more money to fight Devin Haney, right? We want him to fight Lomachenko and Shakur. knowing he's going to get paid more money in those fights than he would get to fight Frank Martin. So who's trying to not let the brother get paid? Right? Once again, somebody saying something stupid that's irrelevant and has nothing to do with anything. You think Loma was using weight stipulations against the opponents like Tank does, that the same people who defend Tank would be saying it's okay if Loma did it? Man, if Lomachenko used fucking rehydration clauses, it would be the biggest fucking news ever. Every single one of these Black American YouTube channels would fucking have a million videos every week shitting on Lomachenko, talking about fucking racism, talking about bias, fucking making excuses about why Lomachenko is fucking terrible for the sport and a huge cherry picker. We all know that because we literally saw them say that about Canelo Alvarez. But now they defend Tank Davis for doing it. So he said Anui. I know. Stupid can't fucking be stupid, right? He sure did. Tank unified bum burger champion. Stringer from above might be dumb question, but is Sting your all-time favorite wrestler? Divisions without Black Americans are like the minor leagues to me. Yeah, because you're a casual boxing fan. You're going to say that heavyweight boxing, which is killing boxing right now, making tons of money, the Fury Usyk fight just did over 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. But you're going to say that it's the minor leagues. Whereas Tank Davis, Frank Martin will be lucky to do 310,000 pay-per-view buys. And if it does, you will talk about it being great and you'll hype it up. Go back to Europe. Black New World Order. Who, me? Black New World Order? Well, then I guess I should say you should go back to Africa, because you're not from North America any more than I am. So, but Pacquiao never unified. Pacquiao never unified, but Pacquiao became a 7-weight world champion. Are you comparing Tank Davis to Manny Pacquiao? How many pound-for-pound fighters has Tank Davis fought in his career compared to Manny Pacquiao? Right? Your whole take is ridiculous and stupid. Because when it comes down to it, Pacquiao fought tons of pound-for-pound fighters. He literally fought Floyd Mayweather. This is what kills me when people try to criticize somebody like Canelo because they haven't fought who they should fight. But he fought Floyd. Pacquiao didn't do this, doing that, but he fought Floyd. Sure, Floyd won, but they fought Floyd. They fought the guy that you say is the best fighter in history. Whereas Tank Davis hasn't fought another fucking world champion. He's currently in his second weight division. He fought Petraza, a legitimate world champion at 130, and now he's moved to 135, and he's yet to face a world champion in this division. He moved to 140 for one fight and didn't fight a world champion. All we're saying is that Tank Davis should be doing what everybody expects everybody else to do. If you're going to be critical of Anui, critical of Lomachenko, critical of Canelo Alvarez, and wanting them to do this, and that, then why don't you want Tank Davis to do that too? Why are you trying to protect him and allow him to not prove himself? Literally, you're the ones hurting his career because you don't want him to prove himself. All we're saying is, or I'm saying, is that we want him to do what everyone's doing. Fight the best. Fight Haney, Shakur, Lomachenko, Teo, fucking Subriel Matias, fucking O'Shaquie Foster. Fight the best. You beat them, you're going to be pound for pound number one. You're going to be fucking a pound for pound king. You're going to be pay-per-view icon. The history books are going to write themselves. But you'd rather defend him for not doing what he should be doing and then come on here and throw out stupid fucking negative comments based on race. Black New World Order. Like, I mean, Black New World Order. What's the reality of that? Like, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Come on, man. Times have changed. These international athletes are boxing and basketball, for examples, are just as good, if not better. Well, they're fucking dominant and fucking rewriting the history books. There are no white American champions. I ain't fucking American. Why do I fucking care? That's your fucking issue. Don't fucking bring that up to me. I don't give a fuck. There's no white American champions. What the fuck was Joe Smith and Caleb Plant? Weren't they white Americans? Yeah, like, dude, man, you make this into a race issue. We're talking about Tank Davis not doing what he should be doing. It has nothing to do with Tank being black, except that you make it that. You defend him because he's black. You fucking find a way to fucking dick ride him and fucking give him a pass like you don't any other fighter because he's black. Whereas everybody not black, you hold to fucking high levels of scrutiny. The question is why? Why don't you want Tank Davis to prove himself? Why don't you want Tank Davis to be the best Tank Davis he can be? John Boxing is a coward. He blocked me. Yeah, that's John. John sent his trolls. Yep, that's very true. LDBC, laughing stocks of denial boxing community. You might actually be John Boxing. Sean Porzingis looked like a mixture of Dirk Nowitzki and Mutombo in the first half. Fuck, man. Don't bring that up. I don't want to hear about it. Tank is a younger Wilder version. Well, Tank's a much better boxer than fucking Deontay Wilder ever was. Tank is building his own legacy. Yeah, he's building his legacy as a dude that's never unified, fucking won one weight division, and literally is 30 years old and is fighting a bunch of pay-per-view fights against opponents that nobody has fucking ever asked for, and has a bunch of delusional fanboys, as Ring IQ likes to call you guys, fags. You guys like Tank Davis because you want to fuck Tank Davis, or you want Tank Davis to fuck you, right? That's why you're so irrational, because you're making this about race, you're making it about this, you're making it about that, but you don't want to fucking have Tank Davis just prove himself. Like, why don't you want Tank Davis to fight the best fighters available? Because you wouldn't say that about anyone else. Why do you say it about Tank? Stop the cap. 5 years at 135 and he's about to fight a contender. Tank is building his legacy against C and sometimes B level fighters. Sean Newton, do you think DAZN is HBO 2.0 since they have an agenda to carry out retribution to destroy American boxing? Oh my God. Destroy American boxing. American boxing has destroyed itself because of people like you and these guys that want to create this racial divide. Like, you guys literally think America is racially divided. It's not. The media, the people that control the country, are using race to fucking distract you so you don't focus where you need to focus. American boxing has been dying. That's why HBO and Showtime are fucking gone. HBO didn't try to destroy American boxing. What they tried to do was keep boxing alive. And what DAZN is doing is make boxing global, make it huge, make it the best sport possible. They just actually signed to make it fucking become part of the stock exchange, meaning that the amount of money that's going to flow into fucking DAZN is going to give them all the possibility of signing PBC fighters, the PBC, absorbing the PBC, absorbing Top Rank, and bringing all of these boxing promoters under their umbrella. So now we have no more reason for division, for racial fucking back and forth, for fucking this kind of bullshit to have fights not be made. It's all going to be under DAZN. And so every great fight should be made to give you and me, boxing fans, everything we want in the sport. Unless you're like these guys that are Tank Davis dick riders that just want Tank Davis to look good against mediocre opponents and never risk being beaten. But then talk about him being the face of boxing. You forgot to mention that Robert El Finito Lopez retired undefeated. Yes, but he had a draw, even though it was bullshit. Good evening. What's up, Mark? Exactly. Border is closed. That's why Tank is fighting Martin. John B. Smith. Pack. Ha ha ha. Okay. Ha ha ha. Kimbo Slice. Tank Davis have Floyd stamp of approval, and you is taking him needing to prove himself. Adrian Broner had fucking Floyd's stamp of approval. How did that work out, buddy? What does Floyd's stamp of approval have to do with fucking anything? Floyd Mayweather promoting Tank Davis is going to say irrational bullshit, just like Bob Arum said about Lomachenko and every other fighter he promotes. Promoters are there to promote. Come on, get a fucking grip. Drunk Irishman's in the house. Tank could have tied Pacquiao's shoelaces. Couldn't. No fucking chance. Floyd had him duck Loma. Ducked him blatantly. Smoking on that. Okay. Black Americans are the most overrated fighters of boxing. Always need special treatment. Gift decisions. Pac. They are too scared for him to take that risk. Well, that's the thing, right? These guys are afraid for Tank Davis. They're like Tank Davis's fucking baby mama, afraid that fucking something bad gonna happen. So they don't want him to leave the house. They want to fucking hug him and protect him. You know, that's cute, sweet, but this is fucking sports, man. We just want the best people to fight the best people. Tank clearly has a substantial amount of European DNA, so he could say these racist black guys are bootlicking a part white boxer. I don't disagree. The sanctioning bodies have destroyed boxing too. Machado, you're preaching to the choir. You know, that's the way I think. That's totally fucking the situation. These dudes are ruining boxing. And hopefully what Saudi Arabia does is once they fucking are part owners of DAZN, which I do think that's why it's going public, and they absorbed the PBC, who needs to be absorbed because Al Heyman is fucking short cash and definitely needs a money influx, and absorbs fucking Bob Arum's old ass fucking Top Rank, because obviously Bob Arum's 90 something years old. It'd be nice if somebody else took responsibility, put it all into DAZN, and then they could fucking kick out these fucking sanctioning bodies that I have listed right here and make boxing great again. Make boxing great again. Ortiz Bolchak. Yeah, I talked about it earlier. Put that on the Bud Crawford card. Man, what a fucking card that is. That shit is unbelievable. That's all we want in boxing. Like, I don't know any sports fan that doesn't just want the best to play against the best, whether it's hockey, basketball, football, soccer, rugby, lacrosse, fucking whatever, fucking F1. You know, only in boxing do you get fucking delusional fucking fanboys like this that literally fucking have signs around their neck that says, Tank, I love you, right? And criticize and shit on every other boxer, but then fucking flock to the comment section to defend Tank Davis, to say that he's building his own legacy. He's building his own legacy. His own legacy is not going to get him any fucking recognition at all, except for a ducker who didn't fight the best fighters in and around his weight division. So, I mean, make of that what you will. You know, this has nothing to do with Tank. It has to do with these irrational boxing fans, right? You could criticize Canelo Alvarez fans that don't want him to fight David Benavidez, that don't want him to fight the best fighters available, and criticize them just like Tank Davis fans, right? Any fan that is a huge fanboy of a boxer, but somehow makes excuses for him to not fight the best opponents available, you got to question their integrity, right? Like, I'll be honest, and I'll talk about why somebody's fighting this guy and not this dude, but it doesn't reflect on what I want to happen. But we understand the business of boxing gets in the way of fights being made. right? Like William Skull becoming an IBF mandatory. Nobody wants to see that fight. Nobody understands why that fight would even be fucking sanctioned by the IBF. Whereas the WBC still didn't sanction fucking Benavidez versus Canelo. Canelo Skull is a purse bid. I'm so excited. Skull, wow. Well, you can't blame fucking Canelo, right? If you want to stay undisputed, you got to fight these dudes. And people say, how come you didn't fight fucking Benavidez when he was your mandatory? Well, because the WBC didn't fucking mandate it, did it? They didn't threaten to strip you, did they? No, they didn't. We know the IBF will because they did that shit already. You're probably one of those passport bros. Dude, I've been in Asia before the term passport bros was even a fucking term. But what's wrong with being a passport bro? You don't like bitches? Oh, sorry. No, you don't. You want Tank Davis to fucking rail you. So, okay, never mind. So you might as well stay in the States. What the fuck are you doing in Taiwan? Just think about this. We're a boxing channel and we're all here talking about boxing, but you want to know why I'm here in Taiwan. The good thing is, at least you know I'm not in Thailand. So obviously you're somebody that's been watching the channel for a long time because you're at least smart enough to realize I am not in Thailand. What am I doing in Taiwan? Living, working. Like, the world is a small place now. Globally, you can fucking work anywhere. I mean, many of these YouTubers, like Dante's Boxing Nation, where does he live now? Do you know? Black New World Order. Where does Dante's Boxing Nation live right now? Tell me. Leave it in the comment section. Come on. Snap, snap. Go, go, go. Where does he live? Even Julius Ring IQ, he's talking about moving to the UK, leaving the States, moving to the UK, being a boxing channel, wanting to be around boxing. That's funny, right? Being an American, living in America, he wants to go to the UK, so he's more around boxing. Since Black New World Order is ducking the question, I'll explain to you. That's not how you call them anyways, but okay, yes. Thai girls love big black cock. No, Thai girls love dudes with money. Doesn't matter what size their cock is, what race they are, or anything else. But yes, Dante's Boxing Nation now lives in Thailand because the world is a small place and you can live wherever you want. They see us as demigods. So think about your comment just now. You're accusing me of being a passport bro and ask why I live in Taiwan, but now you're praising Dante's Boxing Nation for doing the exact same thing I'm doing. And I literally did it fucking 20 years before him. Okay, buddy. Your argument just makes no sense at all. I read Raymond Ford lost because he stayed at the weight too long. To be great, Haney would have done it too, face Shakur and Tank, and even rematch too, but Haney gets a pass. Raymond Ford lost because of bad decisions. I felt he won that fight, but we knew he wanted to move up in weight. He only took that fight for the money, for the financial incentive. I mean, Haney did the same thing. He fought Lomachenko. He could have easily lost that fight and would have been in the exact same situation Raymond Ford was in. But luckily for him, he had 3 American judges, whereas Raymond Ford did not have 3 American judges, and he lost the fight, whereas Devin Haney was gifted the decision and then moved up in weight. So, you know, Raymond Ford taking a loss, it's not a big deal. He'll move to 130 now, and maybe he could fight Greer. Maybe he could fight Oshaki Foster. Maybe he could fight Valdez, Navarrete. You know, there's like some opponents for him there. We'll see what happens. But obviously, his legacy is still developing. If he goes on and becomes a 2-weight world champion, that loss doesn't mean anything. People lose, right? If you're fighting the best fighters available, you potentially may get beat. that's what happens in sports. But unfortunately, a lot of the guys here now trolling on my comment section, for some reason, they're afraid of Tank Davis taking a loss because they'd rather build up this false fucking illusion like they did with Deontay Wilder, like they did with fucking Errol Spence, like they did years before with Adrian Broner, right? Glorify these people as fucking superstars. And then when they get beat, then come up with excuses as opposed to just understand that you guys were hyping them up too much, being unreasonable, using race as a way to fucking push them. And that was your whole fucking motivation. And now they lost. So now because you felt hurt, because you're a race fucking baiter, now you're trying to find ways to defend them. I was trolling. I generally don't have an issue with passport bros. In fact, I plan to travel to Brazil to find abroad. Listen to the way you say the comment and then say you're trolling. You're probably one of those passport bros. Ha 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 ha. What the fuck are you doing in Taiwan? Question mark. So what are you talking about, buddy? Like your comment and then your follow-up comment contradict one another. Yeah, you should go to Brazil. A lot of sweet fucking honeys in Brazil. Brazil's a good country, a lot of fine bitches, and your dollar will stretch far more than it will in the States. And the States is a shithole, right? And I don't say that because I hate the States. Canada is a shithole too. And I'm disappointed with the way the governments in the States and Canada are running the countries and ruining them. So we might as well fucking move outside the country and just say, fuck you guys. Why did HBO boxing become an anti-American boxing? HBO did not become anti-American. Bud Crawford, Andre Ward, a gold medal Olympian, were part of fucking HBO broadcasting. How did it become anti-American? Because it started to showcase non-Americans. Boxing is not made up of only Americans. It's a global sport now more than any other time in history. So why wouldn't you showcase the best fighters around, regardless of their race? Like, this is when you expose yourself. We know you're only saying this because you're a black guy who wants to push some racial fucking narrative. Yet you fanboyed Al Heyman because he was black and he was going to save black American boxing. And he was the messiah for black American boxing, him and Showtime, the short little Jewish guy, right? Because yes, the short Jewish guy is totally going to save black American boxing. And then they went under, just like HBO, for the exact same reason, which contradicts your whole fucking point. And then Al Heyman, most of his fight cards now are Latino based, meaning he ain't giving black Americans that much fucking airtime. He's mostly using Mexican boxers on his cards. Like, let's look at that Tank Davis card. And let's just see how many black Americans are on that Tank Davis PBC card. Because, I mean, you know, it's HBO that ruined boxing because they obviously were racist, right? So let's see Tank Davis and his card and how many Mexicans are going to be on that card. So Frank Martin, there you are. So we scroll down. There we go. Frank Martin. We open the card. So there we go. So let's go through the card. So Tank Davis, Martin, 2 black Americans. David Benavidez, Gvozdyk, Mexican American. Antoine Russell versus Puello, a Latino. Carlos Adames, a Latino, versus Turaguacho, a black. At least you got black American fighters involved. That's good. Mike Saya, Asian, versus Ramirez, Mexican. Villa, Mexican, versus Rodriguez, Mexican. Elijah Garcia, Mexican American, versus Kyron Davis, Mexican American black fighter. Blancos, Schwartz, so Mexican American. Valoria, Filipino, versus Contreras, Mexican. Ayala, Mexican, versus Decalito, Mexican. Selby Walker, sounds like 2 black one black English person and 1 black American, but I don't know. Mia Ellis sounds black. Whitmore sounds black. girls. Gonzalez Mulder, Mexican. I mean, this is PBC. It's deep in Mexican. So how did HBO ruin American boxing? I also noticed a few of HBO's boxing managements were given roles at DAZN Boxing. Okay. Canada is horrible because it's being flooded with Middle Eastern and African migrants. Immigration is a problem, but that's a government problem. It's not so much the immigrants. It's a problem that there's no fucking housing for the immigrants and the people that live there. So you're bringing immigrants to live fucking where? All those guys were top ranked fighters you listed. They only fought on HBO a few fights. And Sean knows the small hat tribe is not to be trusted. Ha ha ha. I'm not saying anything about Jews except for one particular, Showtime. That guy, you're going to trust him as your savior? Psh. Crawford is the only Black American worth mentioning, and I'm a big Crawford fan. Other Black American fighters haven't accomplished shit and are overrated. That's a fact. Tank Davis is the only other guy, along with Shakur and Devin Haney, two of whom are super young. And Tank Davis, the whole point of this video is that we hope that he does more, that he proves himself like we expect everyone else to do. And outside of that, who else do you have to fucking be praising Black American fighters as if somehow they're dominating boxing? Right? Bud Crawford, proven on every level. Tank looks the real deal, but will he finally step up and prove it in the ring? Haney did it in a short period of time, but then recently just got fucking knocked down 27 times by Garcia. And Shakur looks good, but at times looks bad, right? The question with him is, is he really going to be that kind of fighter, that Floyd Mayweather-esque fighter? At this point, I would say he's far from Floyd, man. He's not Floyd Mayweather. Is he good? Yeah, but he looks more like a fucking Erislandy Lara than he looks like a Floyd Mayweather to me. The point is, this is not about race. Nobody's hating Tank Davis because he's a Black American fighter. We're just wondering why Tank Davis fans are so blatantly biased. They will be very critical towards non-Black fighters, have these huge expectations on what they expect them to do, but yet when it comes to Tank Davis, as we've seen in this chat, will defend him and make excuses and not want him to actually prove himself in the ring. Like, when in boxing history has that ever been fucking the way boxing fans wanted their fighters to be perceived? As ducks, as cherry picks, as guys that didn't want to take on the best. Like, literally in this comment section, we heard people say literally, oh, he never fought a Black American fighter. But that might have been something worth talking about back in the 90s. But in 2024, does that fucking even mean anything right now? People said that about Inouye. What did he do? He beat the fuck out of Stephen Fulton. And then people literally then made excuses about Stephen Fulton and still didn't want to give Inouye credit. So even when you beat the Black American fighter, people are going to find reasons to fucking not give you credit for doing it, right? So, it's a bullshit fucking narrative to push anyway. If you are too critical of them, they'll take down your channel, so it's best to abstain from talking about the Jewish question. Well, that's the same as fucking Black Americans, because look at John Boxing, who took down my channel. Air the rebroadcast of Hopkins Pavlik fight at 2 a.m. I also noticed that HBO 2 had time to air Calzaghe's win over Hopkins at 2 a.m. before the Roy Jones pay-per-view aired. If you're going to be critical of the way HBO showcase boxing, then you probably should be more critical of ESPN or Fox, right? Fox, who totally fucking had PBC and butchered the product. ESPN, who's been fucking boxing over for fucking over 25 years. in the way they showcase the fights. Show you the prelim fights on one channel and then show the other fights on another. Fucking have it delayed because we're watching some college football game that nobody gives a fuck about and we got to watch the last 2 minutes. Like, come on. Are you going to say ESPN ruined American boxing? American boxing has been ruined for years, primarily because of American boxers, right? Prima donnas, overpricing themselves, not fucking taking the fights they should, not performing the way people want them to, right? This is what it comes down to. That's why right now, when we look at who are the best Black American fighters in boxing today, you'll be lucky if you can list 5 of them on your hands. Crawford, Tank, Shakur, Haney, and Haney got some fucking retribution to do. And then who? Who's number 5? Anybody, leave it in the comment section. Who's number 5? Who's number 5 on that list of great Black American fighters currently today that are dominating the sport and really fucking helping to elevate it? I mean, we know Bud is. Bud's got a huge pay-per-view. He's working with the Saudis. He just fucking fought Spence in the fucking fight of the decade, destroyed him. Unification, undisputed fight. Tank Davis has never unified against anyone. Blacks are being used as proxy warriors by them. Well, that's probably true, but we're not here to make this Jewish black racial fucking narrative. People always fucking find ghosts in their closet. This is about boxing, not about politics. If you're so delusional as a human being that you think fucking all this boxing stuff is real and this racial narrative people are pushing is fucking significant, if you're so delusional that you don't want to look at the real bigger picture, if you're like my coworker from South Africa that was worried about the whole Palestine Jewish situation and doesn't even understand the history behind it, there's no point talking to you. You need to fucking read a book. You need to do your history because you're brainwashed. You fucking don't know what's going on. You just believe what the media tells you. And if that's the case, you know nothing. Literally, you know nothing. Haney was led to slaughter by DAZN. They let him fight a golden boy. Eddie knew what he was doing. Now you just sound like a mental conspiracy theorist. Like Eddie Hearn wants Devin Haney to do well. They picked Ryan Garcia to cherry pick to sell a pay-per-view so that Devin Haney would become a pay-per-view star. So then they would have more leverage in making a Tank Davis fight and other big fights. And Devin Haney would be the American face of DAZN, right? Which is what they're looking for. That's why now they just signed Boots Ennis, right? They obviously haven't signed Bud Crawford, but Bud Crawford working with them to do this card, that's not bad either. It definitely helps have an American face to DAZN. Inoue is intimidated to have a bout against Shushu Carrington in the U.S. See, that just tells me you're fucking full of shit. Shushu Carrington is a prospect. Shushu Carrington has no world title. Why would Inoue move to 126 pounds to fight a prospect who doesn't even have a world title? Please explain that to me. And explain to me how that would prove anything to anybody. Because it wouldn't. Shushu Carrington is a great fighter. And when he wins a world title and fucking has his name at 126, then that's the fight we expect to be done. But he got to do what he got to do first before fucking you start capping. Because that's all you're doing, capping. All of pro boxing is fixed. Yeah. Nobody says it's not true. It's not real. So stop fucking deflecting and pointing fingers at one group and fucking giving everyone else a pass. If it's fixed, it's fixed. And everybody's accountable. Everybody. You can't cherry pick fucking the enemy. Not sure if you care, but did you see Yard wants to leave Frank Warren after he strikes it hot with Turk? Seems like a bad business decision. I don't think that's what's going on. I think he just wants more negotiation leverage in what's going on moving forward. And he felt the contract he had with Frank Warren was limited because it's an old contract that obviously he signed when he was young. And now at this point, he wants to renegotiate and have a little bit more of negotiation freedom so that he can get in on the big money fights and actually make big money. He was jumped in with big fights, right? Making money for Frank Warren in risky fights where he wasn't really paid huge, right? When he fought Beterbiev, when he fought Kovalev, he wasn't making millions of dollars in those fights, right? Where you got a guy like Pawazzi who's fought nobody and probably made more money than Anthony Yard because he was affiliated with Eddie Hearn. So, I think what he said, and he even said it in his comment, it's not like he's not going to still work with Frank Warren, but he just doesn't want to be tied to this fucking, let's use the term that people use all the time, slave contract. I agree that boxing should be viewed from a purely objective point of view, but it's normal for people to support fighters of the same ethnic group. Ukrainian fans, Loma fans, Usyk. Sure, to a point. To a point. If you come from countries like that are one group, then you understand. But for Americans, you live in a country that's fucking everybody lives in. You go outside and literally you got faces from around the world. It's a far different perspective than going to Japan and wondering why Japanese people support Inui, because everyone in Japan is fucking Japanese. You go to America and you got fucking tons of Japanese, Chinese, Pakistani, fucking Indians, fucking Aboriginals, fucking white Caucasians, black Africans, black Americans, fucking black Caribbeans, fucking Eastern Europeans, you got everybody. So that's the whole point when people say, how come Americans don't support America? It's because Americans are not fucking American like that. It's a bunch of people who've immigrated to a country for a better life, and they all fucking have ties to their original country. So your point of view is true. Then a lot of these people then become prone to support Mexican fighters, Asian fighters, because they're connected to them, right? What is it? Of course, that doesn't mean you should discredit fighters from other races or ethnicities. Of course. How so? Haney's pound for pound flopped. When he fought Regis, it was 50K, but it would make sense why he wanted him to fight Ryan Garcia. Think about it. Haney is most about legacy. Why would he fight? His pay-per-view flopped, so he needed Ryan Garcia so that he would have a successful pay-per-view. That's why. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands it. It was a cherry-pick move, like when fucking Wilder cherry-picked Tyson Fury so he could have negotiation with Anthony Joshua, coming from a point of perspective that I have successful pay-per-view numbers behind me. We saw this back and forth with Bud Crawford and Errol Spence for years. We know that's why it was done. Come on, man. Ryan, no belt on foreign promotion. Eddie, come on. You sound fucking ridiculous. LDBC is pro-American. They even support Plant when he fought Canelo. Actually, no. Now you just prove you're a fucking LDBC fucking fanboy. They supported fucking Plant until he fought Canelo. Prior to him signing to fight Canelo, they had him listed as the best 168-pound fighter above David Benavidez. Once he signed the contract, Canelo went over to the PBC to beat him. He became another Eurobum. So stop with your BS. They want to destroy Europe and make it into another multicultural America utopia. Well, that's true. Haney thought he was cherry-picking Ryan. He did. Everybody knows that. That's exactly what he thought. Ryan versus Haney flopped. Pay-per-view by 500 isn't all that. Yeah, the number actually is a little less than it should be. And I think a lot of that was because of Ryan Garcia's stupidity. I think he just turned a lot of people off with his ridiculous behavior, where people thought even more so that Devin Haney was going to beat him because this guy is fucking mental. He's not training. He's not fucking focused. He's easily going to get beat. Tank Haney would definitely do more, at least before Haney took the loss. Yeah, Haney doesn't fight people without belts. Oh my God. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, buddy. You definitely are LDBC. You're definitely not a Tank Davis fan. You're definitely a fucking LDBC Devin Haney fucking fanboy. Ryan didn't have a belt. I was surprised to see Fury Usyk did 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. I know, imagine, not a black American fighter in sight. But they're going to say, well, that wasn't just American, that was global. That's the whole point about being DAZN. Global is better than fucking being locally limited like America. You can become a real pay-per-view star. What did they say the viewer numbers were in China for Zhang versus Wilder? They said it was fucking huge. That's why now there's a big push to get Zhang to go fight in China, because there's a lot of money to be made. I think in the night sports is joking. Maybe. But with all the stupid comments and all the trolls that pop up in the comment section, I can't differentiate between joking and reality. Hold on, my computer is dying. Let me plug it in. And we're back. I know John Boxing is watching. And John, I know you're going to spin this and say I'm being anti-black and racist and this and that, and only talk about race. But the people bringing these comments up are guys from your channel, trolling here, making things about race. Because that wasn't and never is generally the point of my videos. When I'm talking about Tank Davis stepping up and facing top-level opponents, and the fact that his fanboys, his groupies, regardless of their color or ethnicity, hold him to a different standard than they do everybody else, that's fact. Literally fact. Right? The irony is you get a guy like John Boxing that says black American fighters are held to a higher level of scrutiny, but yet there's nowhere ever that supports that claim. Literally nowhere. Just look at Canelo Alvarez and Tank Davis as a comparison, and look who's under more scrutiny. It ain't even fucking close. Yet one guy is a future Hall of Famer, 4-weight world champion, undisputed, with fucking the best resume in boxing, and the other guy's not. Where are we? Boots Ennis, Jared Anderson, Shushu Carrington, Haney, Shakur, Crawford, Tank, Shockey Foster, Roach, Russell, Charlo, all phenomenal black American boxers. Could be. Now you're just listing every single black American fighter you can name. Sure, we all think Boots Ennis is a future superstar. Jared Anderson, we're not sure. Mentally, he's shown a little bit of fragility, that he ain't even interested in boxing, and he makes a lot of bad life decisions, which might ruin his career before he even takes off. Shushu looks like he's potentially great. Haney, kind of exposed, no chin, but obviously was doing great things beforehand and hopefully bounces back and does great things after. Shakur looks great, but looks shit too. Scares off boxing fans as much as he attracts them. Crawford, a legend. Tank Davis, could be. The whole point in this video is, when is he going to prove it? Oshaki Foster, a 30-year-old prospect who's literally beaten nobody. Got a title, but who's he beaten? Lamont Roach already got beat. Won a title against fucking a guy coming off of a knockout loss and hasn't really done anything yet. Is he good? We have to wait and see. For him, Oshaki Foster, they are black champions, but that doesn't mean they're great. There's lots of non-black champions people would not call great. Gary Antoine Russell never won a world title. Charlo is finished. Never going to do anything in boxing again. So, come on. You think either Charlo is fucking relevant anymore? They're not. If they are, great. But I don't see it happening. 1.5 million Usyk Fury pay-per-view buys didn't get mentioned by the pocket watchers. Wonder why? Of course. And if they do, they will downplay it and say that the numbers are fake and DAZN is lying. Even though I saw a statement, I think it was from Ring IQ, that said that there are 300 million DAZN subscribers around the world. 300 million. So let's do these numbers. So if DAZN costs you $20 a month times 300 million, I don't even know what that means. What the fuck is 6E9? Let's try it the other way. 300 million times 20 equals, yeah, what's this? I'm not a math student, but I assume that means DAZN is making a lot of money. But I could be wrong. Boots will get set up on DAZN. No, what Boots is going to get in DAZN is an opportunity to make a career. Because what did he get on PBC Showtime? I know he wasn't PBC, but what did he get from Showtime? Never fought a top 10 opponent. Literally, people saw him as one of the best young up-and-coming American fighters in boxing, and he never fought a top 10 welterweight. That's what he got from Showtime. Congratulations. Now what's he getting from DAZN? $303 million in his first fight against an opponent he's going to fucking destroy, even though that opponent fell out because of an eye issue. But the replacement opponent should be the same. Sean, do you have Instagram? I do. If Bud smokes Israel, if you had to bet, who do you think will be his next opponent? I would have thought the winner of Tim Tszyu and Ortiz, right? But if that doesn't happen, then maybe Errol Spence, if he looks good against Van Derl. IBF forced Cody Crowder to withdraw from the Boots fight because supposedly eye exam failure. I think the IBF is trying to prevent the fight from happening because he would get set up. Who would get set up? Boots isn't a real champ. He isn't a real champ. But there's tons of dudes out there with email belts. Because when you are undisputed and you move up, now there's become 4 vacant titles with 4 fucking champions. Stanionis should step in for Boots. That would be great. Let's hope so. That would be fantastic. Conor Benn as a replacement opponent. Boots, he can't fight in the UK anyway, so bring him to Philly. That would be a great fight too. PBC is the pockets of IBF. It all makes sense. That's true. Smash the likes. What's your, if I may ask, on Instagram? What do I don't really do boxing on Instagram. Mostly I do the boxing stuff on X. And X is here. So I prefer people to join X, where it's more sports related. On Instagram, it's just personal and work people. There's nothing sports related at all. Boxers and fans are catching on about snack fighters. Well, people always suspected snack fighters. I mean, that was one of the criticism Errol Spence fans were throwing towards Bud Crawford, right? 500 gay is a streaming era is beyond success. It's not bad. The thing is, I think now people lie about the pay-per-view numbers more than ever. I don't know if they lie. Who knows what's going on? Like, the reality is you probably should get more pay-per-view streaming views now than ever because people have multiple fucking sources to stream off of, whereas before they didn't. Literally back in the day, you fucking bought it from your cable company and watched it on your TV, and that was the only access you had. Now you can do it in your TV, you can do it in your fucking phone, you can do it in your computer, you can do it in an iPad, you can be in your car, you can be at the cabin, you can be at the office, you can be in your bedroom, you can be in the living room, your kids can be downstairs watching a movie, you can be upstairs fucking wanking, your wife can be watching boxing downstairs in the basement, right? So you figure the numbers should be much higher now than ever. You can't talk boxing on Twitter, too many clowns. Yeah, but that's the same as YouTube. So that's why I feel it's the same. It's the same. It's triple X up here. Brandon's voice. But dudes, I need to walk the dog and grab something to eat. It's almost 6 o'clock here. Thanks everyone for jumping in. Remember to hit the subscribe and like button on your way out. It's the least you can do. Even the trolls, help a brother out. See you next time.